Welcome to Distribution of Emergency Supplies, also called DES Fundamentals. Thank you for looking for a way to learn how you can be on the front lines after a disaster, helping the community recover. To start, let's look at the course objectives and what you will learn in this course. By the end of this training, you will be able to describe basic DES procedures, identify safety procedures, explain counting and reporting procedures, and describe proper use of equipment and vehicles. Next, let's look at the topics we'll cover in this course. In this course, we will cover the following topics: a general overview of the DES activity, different mission delivery methods, DES worker safety, counting and reporting, and a brief overview of unsolicited donations management. Unsolicited donations management is an activity that is managed by DES on disaster relief operations. Let's begin with the overview of DES, or Distribution of Emergency Supplies. In times of disaster, distribution of emergency supplies, or DES, sometimes referred to as bulk distribution, provides items essential to basic survival, health, and sanitation as quickly and equitably as possible to individuals affected by disaster. The items provided meet the specific urgent needs of the disaster-affected community. In addition to providing tangible supplies that the community needs, contact with Red Cross workers who also provide smiles and a feeling of hope can make people affected by a disaster feel just a little bit better. The Red Cross presence can be an important part of the community's recovery. DES missions may occur on small, regional disasters such as multifamily fires, small floods, and other small operations, as well as large disasters such as wildfires, hurricanes, and tornadoes. The items supplied to the affected community depend on the type of disaster, the needs of the community, and the capabilities of the disaster relief operation. For example, after a hurricane impacts a community, DES typically supplies cleanup kits, bleach, work gloves, and so on. For a wildfire, DES typically supplies debris sifters, eye drops, metal rakes, and other essential supplies to assist the impacted clients. Factors such as status of utilities and local resources like grocery stores, gas stations, and restaurants may influence community needs, and the disaster relief operation may tailor the DES mission to meet the needs of the community. Now, let's take a look at DES missions. DES missions begin as soon as local emergency management and DRO leadership agree that it is safe. However, Red Cross workers should still avoid entering evacuated areas unless escorted by local law enforcement or emergency management, driving on icy, snowy, or debris-covered roads, entering flooded areas, and crossing flooded roads. Remember the rule, turn around, don't drown when encountering floods. Another part of DES missions is excellent customer service. Let's explore customer service on the next slide. Red Cross workers, no matter what job they are doing, are a sign of hope and help in communities affected by disasters. We always strive to provide excellent customer service. Remember to always be kind, courteous, compassionate, caring, and understanding. You may encounter people who have been through some very challenging and frightening events. Smile, be polite, answer questions from clients as best as you can, and refer them to where they can get answers and help. A smile or a friendly wave from you may make someone feel just a little bit better. Next, we'll talk about what you should report to your supervisor. While you are out in the community distributing supplies, you may learn information that is important to the disaster relief operation. For example, if you learn of a community who needs food, report this information to your supervisor immediately so the operation can ensure the community gets the services they need. You may also learn about other essential elements of information, such as blocked roads, closed or open grocery stores, power outages, or power restoration. Report anything to your supervisor that you think may be necessary for the operation to be aware of. Now that you have learned about DES missions, let's explore the different mission delivery methods. The Red Cross also collects information and data through damage assessments. The Red Cross uses data collected during disaster damage assessment to identify the areas that have been affected by the disaster as well as the severity of the damage. The DRO works closely with local emergency managers and government to direct the DES mission to the communities with the greatest need. DES workers should distribute items to anyone who asks for them without asking for proof of identity or proof of address. We'll now learn about two distribution methods. The first one is called mobile distribution. The methods of distribution may be coordinated with other agencies and distribution efforts may be combined. During mobile distribution, supplies are distributed by staff out of vehicles as they drive and stop throughout a neighborhood. A distribution vehicle may park for a set amount of time in a visible place in a neighborhood or go door to door. Box trucks are the preferred vehicle for DES, and ERVs, or emergency response vehicles, may be used when necessary. Mobile teams typically consist of one truck with 2 to 3 workers, or one truck with 2 workers and a chase car with additional workers. The second method is distribution at fixed sites. At a fixed site, supplies are distributed at a pre-selected location that is easily accessible by the community. Fixed site locations may include parking lots of firehouses, churches or schools, or areas outside of a multi-agency resource center or disaster recovery center. Fixed sites may be drive-through, where people drive their cars through a line and DES workers place the supplies directly into their cars, or by walk-up, and people walk through a line and collect their supplies. Now that you know the different delivery methods for distributing emergency supplies, let's learn about worker safety while delivering these supplies. At the Red Cross, worker safety is our #1 priority. Safety is everyone's responsibility. When we all follow the rules and guidelines, we help ensure a safe working environment for our fellow staff. Always follow current Center for Disease Control, Health Department, both local and federal, and emergency management guidelines. Special instructions for operating under unique circumstances will be provided to you by your supervisor and available on the exchange. For example, during a pandemic, DES operations may be altered to protect the safety of the clients and DES workers. Let's now discuss appropriate work attire as it relates to safety. All Red Cross disaster responders must wear attire that is professional and is appropriate for the task at hand. Closed-toe and closed-heel footwear must be worn. This type of footwear is required at all work locations. Red Cross responders must also wear attire that is appropriate for weather and seasonal conditions and that clearly identifies them as Red Cross disaster responders while on duty as part of a disaster response. Every effort should be made to ensure that attire will not confuse either the public or local officials. The following items are not to be worn: tight or revealing garments, including short shorts, halter tops, see-through garments, and bathing suits; garments or accessories bearing offensive or inappropriate slogans; garments bearing product and/or political endorsement, torn or dirty clothing, fishnet reflective vests in colors other than red or white, uniforms or other insignia that might cause confusion, and any Red Cross apparel that bears design elements other than the official Red Cross logo or Red Cross disaster signature. Now that we know about appropriate work attire, let's move on to the next safety topic: lifting and carrying. It is crucial that all DES workers follow safety guidelines when lifting and carrying bulk supplies. These guidelines are: plan before lifting or carrying. Make sure you have a clear view of the path. Before lifting or carrying, test the load for stability and weight. Do not attempt to lift or carry unstable or heavy loads. Lift and carry only as much as you can safely handle by yourself. Keep the lifts in your power zone, which is above the knees, below the shoulders, and close to your body. Use your legs to push up and lift the load. Do not use your upper body or back. When lifting, do not twist your body. Step to one side or the other to turn. Alternate heavy lifting or forceful exertion tasks with less physically demanding tasks. And avoid carrying large or bulky loads that limit or obstruct your vision. We'll now move on to how to safely load and unload vehicles. Vehicle and transportation safety applies to mobile distribution, loading and unloading vehicles, and emergency response vehicles, or ERVs, as supply distribution vehicles. When loading and unloading a vehicle, place heavy items at the bottom of a load, keep loads in the vehicle as low as possible, distribute weight evenly, never load a vehicle beyond its maximum weight capacity. Overloading vehicles can cause costly damage to the vehicle. Plan workflow to eliminate unnecessary lifting and carrying. Organize work so the physical demands of the workers and the pace of the work increase gradually. And minimize the distances loads are lifted, lowered, and carried. On the next slide, we'll continue to learn about loading and unloading vehicles. When possible, use mechanical devices or equipment to lift or move the load. Some mechanical devices, such as forklifts, require special certifications. Only operate equipment you are qualified to operate. Position pallet loads of materials at a height that allows workers to lift and lower within their power zone, which is above the knees, below the shoulders, and close to the body. Tag unstable loads to alert the workers. If possible, redistribute the load and test before lifting or carrying. Reduce the weight of the load and/or repack so that the weight is balanced. Load items last that will be needed first. Secure loads in vehicles to prevent shifting during transit, and never overload a vehicle and adhere to vehicle weight limits. Now that you know how to safely load and unload vehicles, let's move on to vehicle and transportation safety. Vehicle and transportation safety applies to mobile distribution, loading and unloading vehicles, and emergency response vehicles when used as supply distribution vehicles. When operating Red Cross vehicles, follow all state laws and Red Cross driving guidelines as provided by the Logistics and Transportation Group. The following safety practices must be followed when driving a Red Cross vehicle. Anticipate vehicle placement to minimize or eliminate the need to back up. When backing the vehicle up is unavoidable, the person on the ground giving the driver visual signals, known as the spotter, should stand to one side of the vehicle, never behind the vehicle, and ensure the driver has visual contact in the side view mirror. Consult your supervisor before driving when hazardous road conditions exist. And driving should be limited to essential functions. Our last safety item is the use of vehicle keys and fuel cards. Here is some important information to remember on the use of vehicle keys and fuel cards. Fuel cards and keys will be issued by supervisors to route drivers. Before returning a vehicle at the end of your shift, refuel the vehicle using the fuel card issued to you by your supervisor. At the end of each shift, return keys and all fuel receipts to your supervisor. Insurance and accident paperwork is kept in each vehicle's glove compartment. Being a DES worker is not just about delivering supplies and being safe while delivering those supplies. It's also about keeping good records of the supplies that have been distributed and the supplies that have not been distributed. The next topic will show you how to count and report the items you distribute and keep track of the items that were not distributed. All items distributed are reported using the daily site or route record and completed daily by every mobile distribution team and fixed distribution site. The daily record tracks the quantity of items issued by site and provides an ending daily inventory by item. It also produces useful data for tracking, inventory management, ordering, and route planning for the following day. Data from this form is compiled onto the DES Consolidated Daily Record for reporting on the Disaster Operations Control Form, also known as Form 5266. On the next slides, you'll learn how to count the items being distributed. The bulk distribution daily site or route record sheet includes an issue unit column with suggested units of measurement. Boxes and cases may be opened to distribute the appropriate amount of product to each client. For example, a box of 20 loose batteries is opened and issued as 1 unit for each battery to accompany a flashlight. More than 1 unit may be issued to a client to ensure they have enough batteries to power the flashlight. Also, issuing 2 or 4 batteries for each client may be the most appropriate since the batteries typically accompany flashlights that require 2 batteries. A flashlight and 4 batteries is counted as 5 items. On this site, route record, you would count 1 flashlight without batteries and 4 batteries. Now let's look at some more examples of counting items. Counting items continued. Some bulk items come in different sizes and are packaged in varying quantities. Apply the standard unit of measurement guideline, regardless of packaging, to achieve consistency with tracking and reporting. For example, if you are handing out 1 flashlight and 1 set of batteries, you count them as 2 items together. Sometimes batteries come loose in large boxes and are opened and issued as 1 unit for each battery. Other times, batteries may come in sets. When supplies are pre-packaged and given out as sets, they are counted as 1 item. Next, we'll see how we count packaged items together. If you were giving out flashlights packaged with batteries included, you would count that as 1 unit of a flashlight with batteries on the record form. We'll now move on to learn how to count bottles of water. Another example would be a case of water. If you are giving a whole case of water to each disaster client or household, you count the whole case as 1 unit, regardless of how many bottles are in the case. Next, we'll show you how to count single servings of bottled beverages or snacks. If single servings of beverages or snacks are given to clients at distribution sites or by mobile teams, these items are tracked as each and are accounted for in the special snacks section at the bottom of all tracking forms. These are accounted for as snacks served on the Disaster Operations Control Form, otherwise known as the 5266. For example, if you are giving individual bottles of water to disaster clients, they are counted as 1 unit each as a snack on the snack count line at the bottom of the form. If you gave 3 bottles to a client, you would count them as 3 snacks on the site route record. Let's continue by learning about the importance of maintaining the daily count of items. Maintaining the daily count of items distributed is simple. At the beginning of a mobile route or fixed site distribution, record the number of each item that you started with. At the end of the day, count how many of each item you have left. Subtract the amount left from the starting number. The total is the number of items distributed. Next, let's look at an example of how to maintain the daily count of items distributed. If you began your fixed site distribution with 350 bottles of bleach, and at the end of the day you counted 50 bottles left, you would record 300 bottles of bleach distributed on the root site record. Next, we'll look at counting households served. Households served is an important measure in DES that expresses the number of households in the affected area that received emergency supplies from the Red Cross. On the next slide, we'll show you how to count households served. The unit of measure for households served will vary by operation. Your supervisor will inform you of what the unit of measure is for households served for the operation. For example, if the DRO is providing each household with a plastic bin filled with supplies, the plastic bin may be the measure for households served. If you started your route or fixed site with 100 plastic bins and 20 bins remained at the end of your route or fixed site, you would then count 80 households served. Finally, the last topic we'll learn about in this course is unsolicited donations management. When the public gives unsolicited donations of items at shelters or other service sites, DES manages the intake, sorting, storing, transportation, and disposition of these donations. The American Red Cross does not ask the public to donate items such as clothes, bedding, toys, or household items during disasters. In fact, Red Cross, along with many other organizations who support disaster services, sends messaging to the public asking them not to donate these types of goods because the management, sorting, storing, and transportation of these items can drain resources that are needed for urgent needs such as sheltering, bedding, and distribution of emergency supplies. However, despite the message that cash is the best way to donate because it can be used right away to meet the urgent needs of the community affected by the disaster, people still drop off donated goods at shelters and other service delivery sites. Next, we'll learn about how to handle offers of unsolicited donations. DES workers should never accept unsolicited donated goods while out in the community distributing emergency supplies. Unsolicited donated goods should never be placed in emergency response vehicles. Be polite when declining offers of donated goods. Explain that you are unable to accept the goods and refer the donor to a local organization that handles donated goods if you know of any. If you do not have a local referral, recommend that the donor search online or in a phone book for local organizations who can handle donated goods. Next, let's look at what to do when unsolicited donations are dropped off at shelters and other service delivery sites. Even though the Red Cross sends the message that cash is the best way to donate because it can be used right away to meet the urgent needs of the community affected by the disaster, people still drop off donated goods at shelters and other service delivery sites. As a DES worker, you may be asked to support Unsolicited Donations Management, or UDM. The first goal of UDM is always to give clients access to appropriate items. Donations may be set up in an area in the shelter as space allows. Excess donations are transferred to local organizations who will make the items available to the local community. Please visit the DES Toolkit on the Exchange for more information about UDM. We're now at the end of this course. On the next slide will be a summary of the course and some important contact information. DES workers are on the front line of a disaster response and should be prepared to carry out their duties in a manner that represents the Red Cross professionally. DES workers are kind, courteous, compassionate, caring, and understanding. Remember, safety is the top priority, along with great customer service. Please visit the Distribution of Emergency Supplies Toolkit on the Exchange and reach out to des@redcross.org or your supervisor with questions. Thank you for joining the Red Cross DES team and enjoy your work helping people affected by disasters.